This is an excerpt from The Drum, A History by Matt Dean. Follow the links below to find out more or to purchase the book. Early speculation. Drums have become commonplace in the modern world as the key rhythmic factor in artistic expression. We use drums and rhythm in general to synchronise performances for our own and the audience's listening pleasure. Thousands of radio stations, TV channels, internet sites and books supply a constant source of drumming material which we enjoy, study and emulate to create a multi-million-dollar industry. Drummers strive in a competitive race to be the most stylish, original, fastest and best players in their field. It wasn't always like this, however. Throughout their history, drums have given the human race many more functional and practical uses necessary for survival. Cultures have ascribed strong sexual symbolism to drums, whether it's attaching gender to different drumsticks, helping girls through their first menstrual cycle, or marking the rites of passage through circumcision with rhythm. We can speculate that our distant ancestors may have originally used music in religious ceremony, hunting calls, courtship, battle, or social bonding, but it will always be speculation. Early man may have struck two objects together and accidentally stumbled across a pleasing resonance that compelled him to repeat the action. It would only take several strikes at a consistent speed for a rhythm to be created. It seems impossible to imagine this intelligent life form not using rhythm in some way. After all, our ability and desire for artistic expression is one of the factors that sets us apart from all other species. Our need to express emotion through motion is inherent, such as dancing, a common byproduct of which is stamping the feet or body slapping, and therefore audible rhythm. We can, however, see rhythm in other areas of nature, such as certain mammals that drum their feet to advertise residence and to ward off competitors. Certain African chimpanzees use drumming language on buttressed trees to communicate their location and direction of travel. This may suggest that as humans evolved, they could have communicated through drumming languages before spoken language was created. This is speculation, but surely it must have been impossible for any human ancestor with a pulse to ignore the lure of rhythm, which, even in its simplest form, moves people irresistibly. Antiquity. Scientists speculate about evidence of Neanderthal man using musical instruments, such as a 35,000-year-old bone flute, which was discovered in the late 20th century. It is possible to play full modern-day scales on the instrument by covering the holes and blowing into it, but some argue that this is a coincidence, and scratches indicate that the holes were made by a carnivore's teeth. Earlier still is the evidence from as long as 70,000 years ago. Paleolithic tools were discovered in Belgium, along with a mammoth bone engraved with parallel lines. It is believed that this was a rasp or skiffle. These are basic idiophones, similar to the South American guiro. However, a Neanderthal site in the Crimea has offered us clues from as long as 100,000 years ago in the form of whistles made from antelope bones. If these surviving objects really are instruments, then we can guess that these people would have used some form of drums. Unfortunately, it is left to guesswork, as the wood and animal hide often used for drums would have perished thousands of years ago, leaving only the bone flute and whistle instruments as evidence. Certainly, it can be proven that the people from the late Paleolithic age, around 32,000 years ago, had artistic tendencies. As shown in the caves of Europe, the painted buffalo shaman in southern France appears to be dancing and playing an instrument. If these pictorial references show purpose-made instruments, surely they had also crafted percussive instruments. Could they have possibly danced without rhythm? Drums from earlier times were symbolic, ritualistic, and possibly perceived to contain powers. This magical power may have been responsible for the shaman dancer's seemingly trance-like state. Although Europe is famous for these paintings, such records of earlier civilizations are known throughout the world, such as the rock paintings found in Algeria in 1956. These depict exciting dance scenes dating back to Neolithic hunters of 6000 to 4000 BCE, and perhaps the earliest evidence of African music and dance. We can see that music, and indeed percussion, can be traced back as far as almost any other aspect of civilization. But although the drums are often carelessly talked about as the earliest instrument, this is unlikely. There is a big leap from scratching out an animal bone for a whistle to stretching a prepared animal skin over a hollowed shell and securing it in that position with adequate tension to make a satisfying sound. However, the origin of the drum may have taken a different, simpler form. This can be traced back to the stamp pit, which consisted of a hole dug in the ground and covered with planks of wood. These were then jumped up and down upon, creating a percussive sound, with the hollow pit providing a resonance to produce a pleasing tone. These have existed in many cultures, including the Solomon Islands, Indonesia and Malaysia, and might loosely fall into the category of membranophone. There is also similar evidence from the dawn of Hinduism, when the Vedic texts speak of a pit covered with oxhide. The skin was nailed to the earth around it, and either a wooden stick or the tail, which was sometimes left on the hide, was used as a beater. Even simpler than these is the drum of the earth, as used in New Guinea, India and Ethiopia. This consists of two holes of different depths, each dug into a cone shape in the earth, the opening of which is slapped with the palm of the hand, also making use of the resonance of the cavity. This constitutes the drum, although with no membrane, not a membranophone, in its simplest form and therefore quite possibly its oldest form too. Similar uses are numerous in African domestic work, where tribes of people pound stone pestles into stone troughs. Sexual symbolism is attached, with the pestle as the penis of the spirit and the trough as the vulva. This strong sexual significance was commonplace among early civilizations and often connected with percussion instruments. The advances of the drum have to be viewed with an element of guesswork until the time of Mesopotamia and Egypt, when writing developed. They also took items to the afterlife via their tombs, which has helped many musical artifacts survive decomposition. Thanks to the civilizations of these areas and their excellent record keeping, we have evidence from as early as 3000 BCE depicting a variety of drums and other instruments, such as harps, flutes, bells and cymbals. Drums of this time were shown to involve the sacrificing of certain symbolic animals for their hide to make drums to appease the gods with their music. But the identity of the person who created the first membranophone remains a mystery. It must have existed before the time of any surviving evidence, so the exact origin of this mighty concept is likely to remain a mystery forever. Many early membranophones involved shells so similar to household objects, such as cooking pots, that it seems impossible to ignore the likelihood that these drums derived from such domestic objects. A fish, reptile, or animal skin over a pot, or even a hole in the ground, could have easily been stretched while it was being dried, and, while it was held taut, somebody may have casually struck it when passing, only to be stopped in their tracks by the surprisingly pleasing resonance. The Swazi tribe of South Africa used such a method with the intambula. One man holds the skin taut over the end of a clay pot, while another man beats it with a stick. From here, the taut skin just needs to be secured over the shell, and we have our first purpose-made membranophone. The drums created in many of these tribal environments have changed little over time, so it is to other civilizations that we must look for further evolution of the drum. As reptile and fish skins were replaced by animal hides of greater durability, sticks replaced bare hands as beaters, creating greater volume in different sounds. However, in some cultures, such as parts of East Africa, the drumstick was a phallic symbol, in contrast to the feminine connotations sometimes held by the vessel or drum shell itself, and therefore only used by men to play the drum. In a few cases, the sticks used for particular ritualistic playing are actually human leg bones. By Mesopotamian times, around 4,000 to 5,000 years ago, purpose-made drums with specifically designed shells and carefully prepared and fixed skins existed. Social classes and labour divisions had elevated the musical instrument from one that any old soul could have a go at, to a skilled art that required professional musicians to perform to the highest standard. Of course, just as it is today, anyone can still play an instrument at some level, but the existence of professionals certainly helped to increase the development of the drum, as those professionals embarked on a never-ending search for superior sound and playing quality. One of these drums was the frame drum. A frame drum usually has a single head, the diameter of which is greater than its depth. In many cases, the frame drum simply consists of a thin strip of bent wood. It is the most geographically widespread drum in history and is still popular today all around the world. Other popular shapes across the various cultures were barrel drums, whose middle was wider than the heads. This was an excerpt taken from a book which covers the subject in far greater detail. The Drum, A History by Matt Dean, published by Scarecrow Press, is a comprehensive study into the history of the drum from the earliest evidence, looking deep into every culture across the world to chart the migration of the drums we know today and how religion, mythology, politics, communication, military use, survival, technology and fashions affected this evolution. This reference book seeks to answer many of the questions as to how the drum became the powerful and emotive instrument that we enjoy today. Follow the links below to find out more or to purchase the book.